Welcome back. All right, so again, this is all in a random order. This is the order that my wife handed me these magnets in, and we're up to Utah. Well, I can't do a quarter century on Utah. I know the NHL did, but no. So the Utah one is going to slide into the drawer where I'm putting all these when they're done. And so I've roughly got this many left to do. And I do want to do all 32, and I'll explain this. So I know that the view counts have been low, but I also know there are people watching these, and I don't feel like stopping halfway through the playlist makes a lot of sense. So all 32 will get done. We're going to talk about the Arizona Coyotes today, and as you can see, the magnet's a little different because the magnets I've been using, it's Utah at this point, and it wouldn't feel right to put Utah's name on this board. Now, in the regular season, the Arizona Coyotes, 32nd in my power rankings I did for quarter century, and in the playoffs, 30th. So I see a lot of complaints about how there wasn't much local support and the government turned against everything. But the reality is that the Arizona Coyotes were a disaster on the ice. So it is difficult to build a lot of excitement locally for a team that is basically a tire fire for most of their existence. And getting people to part with their money to go and watch a hockey game for a team that just hasn't been very good is a problem. So they went to the conference finals in 2012, and after that, they did not make the playoffs again until 2020. And the only reason they made the playoffs in 2020 was the expanded playoffs. So they did win the qualifying round against Nashville, and then they got shunted aside by the Colorado Avalanche in the first round, and they won a game because Darcy Kemper willed it to happen. This is a team that, in general, was at best mediocre and at worst abysmal during their run in Arizona. So I've got their grade as inactive, and I'm not trying to be a smartass by putting that up there. It's just this is a team that has been mostly a disaster. You could call it a fail because they moved, but the move is for a lot of reasons. Ownership, I think, played a role in this. Obviously, the local government played a role in this. Fans voting against the Tempe district played a role in this. And one thing I did look up not that long ago was some kind of update on the local, basically garbage dump that was there that the Arizona Coyotes were going to clean up and put an arena on. And I can't find that anything has been done with that landfill since the city rallied to make sure that it stayed a landfill rather than have the Arizona Coyotes fix it and clean it up. So it's bizarre, but it would seem that Tempe, Arizona still has its landfill, and I didn't see anything telling me that there were plans to change it. And I haven't seen anything from Tempe First since the vote. Basically, that was just to make sure that the Coyotes did not get their arena. There's been nothing to do with Tempe First since then, other than just they got their win and that's it. This is a franchise that never won a Stanley Cup. Again, I grade them as inactive. And it's too bad because there are some good things that happen with this team over the years. And one of the good things would be the career of Shane Doan. So he's the leading scorer for this team going from January 1st, 2001 through until this past season, where, of course, they moved to Utah. 1,175 games played, 344 goals, 489 assists, 833 points. The face of the franchise. And they even the last couple of years there tried to make sure that they kept him in the fold. And it did feel like they were trying to do the right things to make this a long-term success. It did not work. Somebody's going to have to try again at some point. I don't know what the timeline for that's going to look like, but it'll happen. Because I think the NHL wants that market. They want the Phoenix market, right? Whatever it takes. Phoenix is a huge market. And I know people are going to say, no, that doesn't work. But if the National Hockey League is bound and determined to try again, they'll try again. Clayton Keller, number 2 on the list, 520 games played, 166 goals, 252 assists, 418 points. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, 769 games played, 128 goals, 260 assists, 388 points, and played a ton on that blue line for the Coyotes. Radim Verbata, 509 games played, 157 goals, 186 assists, 343 points. Martin Hansel, 608 games played, 117 goals, 196 assists, 313 points. Keith Yandel on the board, 558 games played, 65 goals, 246 assists for 311 points. Nick Schmaltz, personal favorite of mine, 344 games, 93 goals, 176 assists for 269 points. Ladislav Nagy, 321 games played, 92 goals, 157 assists, 249 points. Bodker on the list. 445 games played, 80 goals, 133 assists, 213 points. And Lawson Krause makes the list too. 504 games played, 103 goals, 94 assists, 197 points. He's become a pretty good power forward in the National Hockey League. So that's your top 10 for the Coyotes, again, from January 1st, 2001 through until the end of the 2023-2024 season. Their leading goaltender in terms of wins, Brizgalov, right? 130, 93, and 27 record, 917 save percentage. Those numbers are excellent. Mike Smith next on the list, a record of 128, 132, and 41, 916 save percentage. Smith didn't get a lot of support in Arizona in terms of goals and had to kind of stand on his head a lot, which has been a standard for Arizona goaltenders over the years. Sean Burke, record of 67, 57, and 18, also a 916 save percentage. And Darcy Kemper had a good run with the Coyotes, 55, 48, and 15, 920 save percentage before he moved on to greener pastures. And it was a storyline for these Coyotes as well, that players would move on when they wanted to win. They had a lot of players that they brought in who were big superstars, but usually at the end of their careers, just to have their contracts on the books for insurance reasons and all that, just to get to the cap floor. It was a whole thing. So again, if you were a fan in Arizona and you're like, hey, we just added Pavel Datsyuk, he's not going to play. How about Chris Pronger? He's not going to. So we added all these guys and none of them are going to play. Alrighty then. So yeah, you don't have jersey retirements for that. And it is one of those many reasons why this team didn't succeed. Now looking at the coaching list, Bob Francis was coach. Rick Bowness was briefly coach of this franchise. And then Wayne Gretzky came in. He was a coach for a while there. Mixed bag with Gretzky behind the bench. I don't know if Gretzky's a great NHL coach because I don't know that he had a team that would have brought that out. We haven't seen him as a National Hockey League coach since then. And there were those at the time that felt like it was kind of a stunt. Like they were doing this to try to generate interest in the market. And hey, look, we got the most famous hockey player of all time in Wayne Gretzky. Either way, the next coach was Dave Tippett. Rick Tocchet was coach there for a while, and then Andre Tourigny takes over. And Tourigny, a coach that some love, some don't. I think he's a good coach, although they did a recent poll with the National Hockey League players on coaches they'd rather not play for, and Tourigny surprisingly made the list. Not at the top of the list. Nope. No, I don't think he was second or third either, but just seeing him on the list, I was actually mildly surprised. So the general managers has been an interesting list. And again, this only goes back to the 2000-2001 season. Bobby Smith and then Cliff Fletcher. Mike Barnett was general manager for a while. Don Maloney. John Chayka, famously a young general manager. They were trying something different, all the analytics and all that. Then Steve Sullivan was briefly general manager before Bill Armstrong takes over. He's still general manager, of course, for Utah. Andre Tourigny, the coach for Utah. And some of the players on this list are Utah players. Utah will not show up on this list because, again, they just started playing this season. I still think the quarter century season was so weird with them. Team captains. Keith Tkachuk, the captain for this team at the turn of the century. Teppo Numminen, captain, or I said coach, didn't I? Keith Tkachuk was captain at the turn of the century. Teppo Numminen, then Shane Doan. And then after that, Oliver Ekman-Larsson was the captain for the team for a bit. And then in their last 3 seasons in Arizona, no captain. None. The Arizona Coyotes were captainless, which is a decision that some teams make that works. In some cases, it doesn't. In Arizona's case, I don't know if naming a captain would have made any difference at all on the ice. But it did show that there were some struggles with the Coyotes. And Utah has seemingly taken some of the struggles that Utah had or some of the struggles Arizona had, and in Utah we're not seeing that. So like the building's not going to be a problem. I've seen some people talk about how the Utah building's built for basketball, but they're doing renovations. It's just they had to find a place to play for this season. Here they are. They're going to renovate that building. It will be much better for hockey within a few years' time here. Meanwhile, Arizona's waiting for their team back. And I don't know a timeline on that. I don't think the NHL goes there. Once they do bring in a first round of expansion, that's going to happen, people. It's absolutely going to happen. And then maybe Arizona comes in with that second round. I'm thinking 36 teams. Because if you go past 32, you kind of have to go to 36. If you want the divisions to be balanced, and then we get into whole other conversations about scheduling and how the divisions would be set up and everything. But that's another discussion for another time. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And to Coyotes fans who might be watching this, I know there are Coyotes fans. I've been aware of that for years. At the time this channel started, I will say I was one of those ones who was very negative and there aren't fans in Arizona. This will never work. This is why are they trying? And then covering the day by day and looking at their history and looking at where this team was at, I understood why people weren't lining up for tickets. I understood why fans were frustrated, and I also understood that there were fans in that market. So we'll see if the NHL goes back. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.